Hello and welcome. Another edition of The Process, where Jeremy Fouts and myself take some time. We talk a little bit about everything and anything related to the college athletic recruiting process, all sports. Tonight, we're going to be talking some baseball in the great state of Texas. We're going to actually hear from, we've been getting a lot of questions. Jeremy and I both interact with parents, and we've been getting a lot of questions about why we are always talking about size, strength, speed, nutrition, meal prep. And tonight we're going to take a deeper dive into that with a parent's perspective as well as a student athlete's perspective. But Jeremy, you've been doing this for a while now, and this is a family that you have been working with for a significant amount of time. So why don't I allow you to introduce the family that's going to be working with us tonight?
I appreciate that, Walter. And, you and I, we hear this over and over from coaches is, what? He's got good skills, but he's just not big enough. He's not strong enough. He's not fast enough. And tonight it's an honor and a privilege to have on Brenton Kaminsky and his son, Braden, which his nickname is BK. So I don't want that to confuse everyone. But, the reason that this is important, Walter, for someone like you and I to bring on a dad and a son is we're going to kind of bring out the excuses that a lot of parents say of not having time, or the son says, well, that's a lot of food. We're going to talk about all those things tonight. And, I love nutrition. Everyone knows that. And, when I grew up playing ball, Walter, I'm sure same with you, very few people had a strength coach. Very few people had their own hitting coach. Very few people had their own pitching coach. But now pretty much everyone has that. But the big separator from what I've saw in the last 5 to 10 years is those that really focus in on nutrition. And that's why I love, the relationship that you and I have gathered here to bring the process to talk about, the power of nutrition. And tonight it's a privilege to have on BK. BK started with me, Walter, April 13th, weighed 149 pounds, and he has went to 190 pounds. And he's a junior now. So he started when he was a sophomore, and he had aspirations to play college baseball. And I think we would all agree, Walter, you'd definitely say yes to this because you talk to college coaches all the time. He wouldn't have had a shot playing college baseball and getting looked at as a junior weighing 150 pounds. It just would not have been possible.
And I think it's important because I get this frustration from a lot of parents that say, why are you constantly trying to get younger athletes to be on par, to get bigger, to get stronger? And when we start to talk about the development of the college athlete, it's about the fact that those college athletes know their way around not only the weight room, but the breakfast table, the dinner table. They know about the sleep, the hydration. So, one of the things I want to start, if I can, with BK. We're going to call BK. BK, at what point did you want to begin to drive your bus, and not really so much from dad's perspective, but what made you as an athlete say to your parents, hey, I really need to get stronger. I really need to get bigger. Was it at a camp or a showcase, or what made you work with Coach Jeremy with regard to the meal prep and the nutrition side of your development?
I've always been on the tinier side. I've always been the skinny kid, and kids would try and grab around your wrists. And at a certain point, like, it's just like, I'm not hitting home runs. I'm not hitting the ball as hard as I feel like I want to hit it. And it's just like, if I want to go play college ball, if I want to make it to the MLB, like, something's got to change.
So go ahead, Walter.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
So tell me, you talked about that. You started 149 April 13th, and this summer you already got to 175 and hit 3 home runs, and your velo has went up. And he just got through, Walter, coming back from a PBR showcase here in Texas. He's one of the top 3 pull downs from outfield over 90 mile an hour, one of the top 3 exit velos at 102.5. And now he's, like I said, weighing 190 pounds. So I wanted you to kind of explain, first and foremost, BK, you've embraced this, but was it hard the first couple of weeks?
It was really hard. Like, seeing the amounts of food that was there, I was like, do I really, how am I going to eat all this? Do I really got to eat all this? I'm like, I just kind of had to look at it and just go to work.
Yeah. Go ahead, Walter.
Brenton, one of the things that I want to ask you is, now, obviously, you get to see BK on a daily basis, but what are some of the changes that you've seen in, his excitement level as far as preparation is concerned? More importantly, what type of accountability have you begun to notice with regard to his daily routine and his accountability on his development, his personal development?
Yeah. So I think that's a great question. I think the biggest piece, mentally that we saw changing is his confidence level. As soon as he started gaining weight, immediate, success on the field, going from, spring baseball right into summer baseball here in Texas. And I think that really fueled the self-accountability piece. If I could go back and look from last April to now, a lot of, the extra work that's required today to be a competitive athlete is done outside of practice, with the hitting coaches, with the pitching coaches, with the extra workouts. And then before, it was always about, hey, you have this going on, this today, do you want me to schedule this? And constant reminders. Where now, Braden, BK, that's all self-driven. He's hey, I want to do this day. I want to do this day. I'm going to stay after, and hit. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It's all self-accountability now. So from a parent perspective, it's really made supporting and really enjoying watching him play the game a lot more, because it's all being self-driven.
Yeah. One of the things his dad was telling me the other night, we had an ice storm, Walter, and he said, I don't know what you've done to my son. He said, it's at 10 o'clock at night. I heard something in my garage. I thought something was wrong, went out there, and he's doing arm care. And one of the things I love about nutrition, what I was telling, Brenton, is nutrition is powerful. We know that. That's why we're doing this podcast. But when you have the discipline every day to eat the food, to make your morning weights, to do all these things, in my opinion, after a lot of years, 25 years experience, it unlocks your potential mentally. You know that if I promise myself I can do this, I'm going to do it. And there's nothing that you can't accomplish.
BK, do you begin to notice things like you're less intimidated by either older players or college athletes? Is it easier for you to project yourself playing at the next level now that you're into that 185, 195 window, heading into that 200-pound window? Is it easier for you to see yourself as a college student athlete now as a junior with the size and your routines that you are working with Coach Jeremy on?
Yes, sir. It really changed my mindset a lot. Like prior to that, I would, like my dad said, like I wouldn't want to do the at-home work, and I wasn't really self-driven to do it. It felt more forcefully that I had to do it. And now that I'm like, people tell me like, hey, you got a shot. I know in my mind, like I got the build to do it. I got a shot to go play college ball. It just makes me want to work harder and do the extra stuff and try and be the most perfect and best player that I can be. So I personally, I think that the nutrition side has put me in a good position to go and play college baseball. And now it's just up to me and the extra work.
Yeah. I know one of the things, Walter, that you and I have addressed on this process is people say, well, if you gain 40 pounds, he's probably going to get slower. Tell us, BK, what you ran before you gained 40 pounds and what your laser time is now.
Prior to gaining weight, I ran a 7 flat 60, and now I'm running in the 6.8s constantly.
Wow. Now, Brenton, I have to ask with regard to, the junior year and all that entails. Have you spoken with your high school coaches or your summer coaches with regard to what they feel now is BK's ceiling as a player? Meaning, what do they give you as far as, wow, he's made this progression, so I think he can play, whether it's a JUCO or an NCAA program? What type of progress do the coaches see in the development, both physically as well as athletic skill set with BK?
Oh, I think that's a really good question. I tend to let the high school coach do his thing, and try to steer away from that conversation. I'm a big proponent, Braden being a young man, he needs to advocate for himself in that aspect. So, that's hard for me to say, from the high school perspective. What I can say is I feel like they're very, very supportive, and the high school that we feed into, it's definitely a very competitive program. And I know every day they're going to push, BK and the rest of the players to be the best versions of themselves. And they're not going to tolerate anything but, exceptional work from them. From the high school perspective, that's, we're in a lot more communication with those coaches. We're very, very blessed to have found really good supportive coaches that have college and professional experience. They put player first, which is critically important. And there's been some conversation about, how projectable he is. We're just really entering that piece, and, there's some interesting dynamics going on in the college level of, sports right now. So we're still trying to figure that out and navigate that as well. At the end of the day, we just stay focused on, getting better each and every day, supporting Braden the best way we can, from the nutritional piece, from the training piece, from the, just sitting down and being parents and letting him talk through some things piece. And just making sure he's turning into a young, respectful, good man and teammate. And we firmly believe that everything else will fall in place and take care of itself, whether that's NAIA, JUCO, D1, whatever that may be. We'll see.
Yeah, and just to let you know, Walter, he is a two-way player. He's not only an outfielder, exceptional, but he's also throws really, really well at our big 6A school, touching 89, and I feel like he'll be, and that's just right now in the fall of the year. I feel like he'll be 90, 91 as we get the season going. So exceptional athlete.
The versatility piece is definitely going to be a huge part of college athletics, particularly, at the all levels of college baseball, being a two-way player with the roster caps and the thresholds that are being set at not only Division I, but Division II. Want to hold on for 1 second. We're going to have this brief break. Going to have a message. Then we're going to come right back, talk to BK and Brenton a little bit about their high school season ahead.
All proteins are not the same. I encourage you to choose a grass-fed whey protein. The cattle have a cleaner diet, grazing on natural grass, which is going to mean that it's going to have higher branched chain amino acids, also your omegas and your CLAs. I'm telling you, it matters from a recovery standpoint. Choose the best protein and you're going to see the best gains and the best recovery. I'm telling you, athletes, make a wise choice because it matters what you put in your body.
Hey, we're back. And, Brent, one of the things that I really want to ask about is now with this high school season now upon us, and now you get to work to see the fruits of the labor that BK is bringing forth. What type of excitement does that provide for you as a parent with regard to him being, not only better prepared physically, but now he has that excitement, that energy, that enthusiasm, but most of all, that confidence that college coaches are really looking for to play at the high levels of high school athletics that you're playing at this season. What does that, with that upcoming season now getting started, what does that bring for you as far as a parent with regard to maybe expectations or watching your son's enjoyment now at the high school level after all that hard work?
Yeah, I think, no real expectations. I want Braden to go out. I want him to have a great time. He's got, 2 years of high school baseball left. He's worked really, really hard to kind of end up where he's at. So from an expectation piece, I don't really have any, except for I expect him to compete. I expect him to give 100% of what he has available that day on the field to his coaches, his teammates, in his community. From an excitement level, I'm excited to see the reward, that he, hopefully has for the hard work that he's put in. You know, we've never gone into a season where physically, mentally, you know, and from a health perspective, recovery perspective, nutritional perspective, and we're excited to see all those components come together, and for him to really have a breakout season and support the high school, go as far as we can.
Yeah. BK, I've got to ask you a question. You know, we have a lot of athletes watching, and Walter and I, we get a lot of people reaching out to us after we put a podcast out there. And usually it's dads that know that this is what their son needs to do in order to raise his game to the next level. And they'll steer them to watch this podcast. What would you say to those young athletes that are watching this podcast that are weighing the same weight year in and year out? And they're probably going to already make excuses of, man, I don't know if I can eat that much food, or I don't know if I can spend the time packing my snacks and taking it to lunch, or finding a teacher to let me eat in the classroom. And, you know, that's what we hear a lot doing what I do every day. They start making excuses before they really understand the rewards behind it. What would you tell that youth athlete watching today as far as what they need to do and why they need to do it to take advantage of nutrition?
I would say that I've been there. I've been where times where you just want to go hang out with friends, or you just want to, play video games. And if you really got dreams and aspirations to play college baseball or go however far you want, there are no excuses. I can't even find. I'm trying to find. I wish there was an extra day in the week so I had more time to do stuff and get all my calories in and everything. So it takes a lot of dedication, but if you really have dreams, aspirations, you can do it.
You know, Braden, one of the questions that I want to ask, do any of your teammates ever say, holy cow, you look like a whole different person? How did you do that? How hard was it to do that? Do you get a lot of, whether it's teammates at your high school or maybe neighboring high school athletes that say, wow, you look a lot different. What did you do? Do you get a lot of those questions?
Yes, sir. I do. And a lot of people, a lot of my teammates actually kind of hopped on the meal plan and started working with Mr. Fouts after like the kind of the transformation. And something I find is that when I'm at training, a lot of people ask me if I play football. And they like the other day I had a kid ask me like, what position do you play? I was like, oh, I play outfield. He's like, oh, no, I meant football. And I was like, oh, I just play baseball. So
That's a good sign right there, Walter.
I was going to say that must be a big compliment to Coach Jeremy. So that's a good deal right there.
Yeah. I tell all of my athletes, I said, I'll give you a warning. I said, within the first 2 months, you're going to have teammates and high school friends that accuse you of taking steroids. And BK, how long did that happen before someone asked you?
Not too long. even my mom jokes about it from time to time too.
Yes.
So
yeah, there's power in nutrition, Walter Beede.
Well, one of the biggest pieces of this is you make good decisions. And so I guess what I want to ask from a dad's perspective, the correlation between the decisions that you make from a nutrition and a workout and a supplementation, but also in all other aspects of, being a dad and looking at your son, he's going to be very cognizant of decisions he's making, who he's hanging around with, what he's putting into his body. There's a kind of a correlation between making good, healthy decisions as well as other decisions that, from peer pressure perspective. So this is a really great time in your life as a dad to watch your son making these great decisions on his own and then following through with action steps as far as actually executing his plan. Do you see it taking hold in all other aspects of his life above and beyond athletics and obviously at the dinner table?
Yeah, I mean, from a responsibility perspective, we've seen a big shift in, not that it was really ever a challenge before, but, being respectful of people's times, being on time for meetings, confidence level when interacting with other students, other athletes, coaches. There's a level of confidence there. Schoolwork, the discipline for the schoolwork and making sure you get the schoolwork done on time and with quality, because I'm doing all this extra work, for the nutrition piece, I'm doing all this extra work, outside of the normal practices. I need to make sure that I get good grades to, one, make sure I can play, and then two, I think I don't have the words to state how critical good grades are to open up your opportunities for colleges. You don't want to limit your opportunities just on grades alone.
One of the interesting parts of recruiting, when I'm talking with college coaches, they will almost to a man will say to me, a body is a business card. Like you don't have to tell me that much about a young man that you can see from a physical development, especially at those younger ages, that 16, that 17-year-old age, you have to put in work. And so when you are able to do so without verbally saying, hey, I put in a lot of work, you can see it. It's a calling card. So that's one of the big parts that I think from your perspective, BK, is that when you're out, your calling card now is your body. You can tell that you're putting in work. And from a recruiting perspective, I can tell parents they're very frustrated. They keep trying to ask, why is my student athlete being compared to a a college sophomore or a college junior? And I'll simply say, to get between the lines, it's not just about skill. It's about speed, strength, serviceable strength. And you can only derive that strength through your sheer size and your supplementation and your health and your nutrition. I think, Jeremy, that's one of the things that you and I get a lot of questions from frustrated parents, that we're going to showcases, we're going to tournaments, we have hitting instructors, we have pitch instructors.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that value really during the 24-hour cycle of sleep, getting up, eating, hydrating, making sure you're fueling your body properly on a regular basis. It's only then that dividends will be paid, on the back end, your junior, senior, and freshman year in college.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I try to, Walter and I, we've tried to talk to student athletes about getting started at this early as they can, 12, 13, 14-year-old. BK was not too late to the party, but he would have missed it if he wouldn't have started last April. He would have been one of those guys that went to that showcase and they wouldn't even put him down on the list, Walter. You know that, at 150 pounds. So nutrition is everything, like I say over and over, but it's not only the nutrition size. Yes, it gives him the body for when he steps out on that showcase, they're going to pay attention, 100%. But it also, what it's done is the unlocking the potential mentally of saying, man, not only do I have the body to compete at the next level, I have the mindset to compete at the next level. And that's something that every coach, and Walter, you've been a coach and what you do for a living every day, talking to these coaches, you can spot a young athlete that don't only have the body, but they have the mindset and the tenacity to go compete at the highest level. And that's something that I feel like nutrition just unlocks that nothing else can unlock.
Well, one of the interesting dynamics, Jeremy, that I want parents to understand is college coaches know that a 17, 18, and 19-year-old is going to fill out during those college years. So your high school athlete is not being recruited, if let's say they were 2028, they're really being looked at and viewed, what will this athlete look like in the spring of 2029? So if you're a high school senior in the fall, in June of 2028, college coaches are thinking, okay, with a year of college in the spring of their competing season, their freshman year, if you're going into college at, say, 200 or 205 or 195, they're going to anticipate there's going to be 10 pounds. They used to call it the freshman 15. And there's going to be that widening of the shoulders, the thickness of the body, the lower half. And college coaches know that. So if you're giving yourself that head start beginning your sophomore year in high school or freshman year in high school, and you're putting that work in, so by the time you're a high school senior and you're becoming a college freshman, a college coach can kind of dream on that and say, okay, at 190 or 195, we're probably looking at a 205, 210, freshman athlete that's going to get some opportunities to get between the lines. But if we're starting as a high school senior at 160, it's really hard to press a button or put a key in an ignition and say, okay, I want to take my nutrition seriously. You're not going to get that gain in 1 year that you do get by, really being consistent with it over a 2 and 3 year period. So BK, I have to ask, what are your goals? Working with Coach Jeremy, what do you hope to achieve by the time you're a graduating high school senior?
I really hope to get the opportunity to play college baseball at, whether that's a JUCO, NAIA, whichever school gives me the opportunity, that I feel is best fit. I would love to go, and I would love to play and end up doing good in college and hopefully make the MLB. Typically, if you were asking me this question prior to, probably just be college, but learning and growing and growing nutritionally, it's just made me want to drive to really reach like the top level even more. Yes, sir.
Well, I for one want to say thank you to you guys, because I really think this is really a great wealth of information for parents. And, there's a reason why when we do this, when Coach Fouts and I do this together and we talk to the athletes and we talk to the parents, the biggest message, at least from our perspective, is that college coaches, all levels of baseball, whether it be professional, college, even high school, they want athletes that take the initiative, that have the drive, that to invest in themselves. Don't wait for the college coach or the instructors or the high school coaches or the travel coaches. This is something that you need to address as a family, more importantly, as a student athlete, working with and on your body from a nutrition, a sleep, a hydration, and obviously a strength perspective. And Jeremy, I'd love for you to just kind of share with families, how should they begin their process, whether it's with you directly or indirectly with regard to meal prep or supplements?
Yeah, Walter, what I definitely would love for someone to be a part of my program, but if they don't choose my program, that is perfectly fine. Find someone that can help you determine how many calories you're burning in a day, how many calories you need in order to be able to start seeing at least 1 to 2 pounds of gain a week. Make sure your macros are set right. And for the parents, my biggest thing is invest in your athletes. Don't be that mom or dad that thinks, oh man, I'm gonna have to cook breakfast, and then I'm gonna have to make sure they have a snack, and then lunch, and then all these different things. Look at it and say, I'm not gonna have this student athlete for very long. If what I can do is a good investment that's going to help their confidence, their nutrition, their baseball game, football, whatever sport that they're playing, if I can invest in them in a small piece, it is worth it, and I'll never ever regret that again. I know, Britton, I wanted to ask you a question. What has it done for you from a family perspective? One of my missions is always bringing families together through nutrition. I know you've lost about 25 pounds. How would you explain it to families listening if they're questioning, do I really want to take this on to really help my student athlete?
Yeah, I would say absolutely do it. You just spoke about the investment, and we've done it all. Every tool out there, every lesson out there, and making this investment over almost the last 12 months. This is by far the best financial investment we've ever made in terms of sports for Braden. Greater return than anything else we've done. So if you're thinking, is it worth it? Absolutely 100% worth it. From a family perspective, it's brought us closer than ever. We spend Sundays, a good portion of Sundays meal prepping Braden's meals for the week. It's caused my wife and I to start taking nutrition serious, start meal prepping for us, start making better, healthier choices. And we live busy lives, just like most people. 2 kids, both athletes, work, school. We have it all elsewhere. So you definitely can do it. Get the structure behind it, and make it good quality family time, and you'll learn to appreciate it for sure.
One of the greatest comments that I had from a college coach when I was in Columbus, he said, you want to know what the biggest separator is when I'm out recruiting an athlete? And this happened in Columbus. He said, every time I ask an athlete about, do you have a hitting instructor? Yep. Or a pitching instructor? Yep. Do you play summer ball? Yep. Do you have a strength trainer? Yep. And when I ask them, well, who cooks your meals? And when they freeze, I know mom and dad cook their meals. He said, so when the athlete looks me in the eye and says, I do meal prep, or I make my own breakfast, or I make sure I take my mom's meatloaf to school when I'm having lunch, that shows me somebody that has a routine, that's engaged and involved and accountable with their process. And I think that's the message, really. Unless I'm missing something, Jeremy, that's really the message, being accountable for your process as a student athlete.
Absolutely. It's 100% of it. And I see it over and over and over, Walter. The parents that are like Britain that says this is worth the investment and I'm going to be a part of this with my athlete. And like I said, he's lost 25 pounds. The family is all doing this together. We spend so much money on other things that show little rewards. And we're hoping, you've heard me say this, Walter, I've got 493 text messages and 2,000 something emails I haven't got to today. And I guarantee you most of those are people they know I own a supplement company. They're wanting to know what the number one supplement is for their student athlete. Now I own a supplement company, but I always have to tell them the truth: sleep and whole foods. And most parents and athletes are looking for that quick fix. I believe in creatine. I believe in hydrate. I believe in protein shakes. Don't get me wrong. But we're looking for that quick fix. And what this family did here has been life-changing to BK. It's gave him an opportunity that is going to be life-changing for this young man.
Well, I want to say thank you very much to you guys. I think as a family, I think you've shared a lot of great, very valuable information with those student athletes and families that are taking the time to watch us here today. I want to wish you a very, very healthy and successful 2026 season, both at the high school level and obviously in the summer. I want to thank everybody that watches and sends in their questions. Again, we are going to cover a variety of topics about the process in its entirety. So if you want to reach out, Coach Fouts or myself, you can make sure, leave a comment down below and let us know the questions that you have that we can answer for you to help your experience be better informed and less frustrated. So many parents are frustrated. And Jeremy, I know that you get those emails, a lot of frustration. Everybody thinks they're getting the rug pulled out from underneath them. But I promise you, nutrition, strength training, all of that goes with that process. If you put that and implement that into your routine as a student athlete and as a family, the results will definitely follow. And so until next week, again, submit your questions. We will return next week, a new edition, answering your questions. From all of us at The Process, have a great week in baseball.